Welcome back. In this lesson, we'll work with the IAM and we'll create some users using the command line interface. Now, you've probably already created users using the console, and creating the users in the command line interface is even easier. All you need to do is start with saying AWS IAM create user user name. I'm going to call it my CLI. Okay, so we have a user created and we get a creation date, username, user ID, and ARN. Now this user ID will be also the access key ID, and why don't we create a set of access keys for this user so that we can start working with the command line interface. So I'm going to create access keys by saying AWS IAM create access keys user name, and the name is going to be my CLI, just like here. Enter. Oops. So I put in keys, it should be create access key, so enter. Okay, so I have my access keys and access key ID, and we're going to use this to work with our CLI. Okay, so now I have the access key and secret access key. I'm going to configure my my profile with these keys. So AWS configure profile. I'm going to name the profile same as my username, my CLI. So enter. Okay, so I'm prompted for my access key, and that's right here. Enter. My secret access key, that's right here. Enter. Default region, I'm going to say US East 1. Default output format, I'm going to leave it as default. Okay, so now I can start using my resources, accessing my resources with this set of keys. So to demonstrate that, I'm going to say AWS S3 list buckets with ls and profile of my CLI. So what happened? We don't have permissions, right? So like I said earlier, when we create our user, we do not have permission for accessing any resources. Even if we have access keys, those access keys are of no use because they cannot access anything. So to be able to access our EC2 or S3 buckets, we need to add policies for us to be able to do that. And for that reason, what I'll do is I will list some of the policies available to me. So to do that, I'll say AWS IAM list policies. Enter. Now I have a lot of policies that I can use. I'm going to do the same thing but in table format because I like the format better as a table. Okay, so I want access to Amazon S3, so I will do the same thing, but then I will grep S3 full. Okay, so I know that full access of S3 begins with this word, so I grepped that, and I found Now you can search here and choose any of the policies that you want, but I grabbed it and I found this ARN, which I'm going to copy. I copied that, and next step will be to attach that policy that I just copied, right, to the user. So to do that, I'll say AWS IAM attach user policy, and the policy ARN is going to be the one I just copied. Now we do need to put the username, otherwise there's no way to tell for which user is this for. And this was the name of our user. Let me go back and make sure. Oops, that's a lot of policies there. Alright, so yeah, my CLI is my username, and enter. Alright, so no errors, which means it worked. So the best way to test if it works or not is to say now AWS S3 ls dash profile my CLI. So last time we did this, we had an error saying access was denied. Now let's see what happens. And there we go. We have access to that bucket. So it worked because we have a policy attached. Now I'm going to do the same thing, but try to access my EC2 instances. So AWS S3 EC2 AWS EC2 describe instances, right? Let me try this. So it actually let me oh, I know what happened. So I used the default profile. So when I say profile, I forgot to mention the profile of my CLI, which is the one we just created. So let's try with this, what happens. So when I get an empty reservations, I was using my default profile, and currently I don't have any instances running. That's why it shows empty. But when I say with profile my CLI, enter, you are not authorized to perform these actions, right? So what can I do to get the same result as this? Actually, why don't we with my default profile, right? With my default profile, I'm going to EC2 create an instance, run instance type t2.micro and image ID is going to be I don't know it by heart, so I have to look, and it's right here. AMI is 6057 something something. So that, and let's try this. Oops, run instances. So I missed an S here. So oops, a lot of typos. Instance type, enter. Okay, that did it. So I just launched an EC2 instance with my default profile, right? Because when I don't have the profile dash my CLI written, that means that I'm using my default profile, and my default profile has admin access. That's why I'm able to do everything with no restriction. Now, if I were to say the same thing but with profile of my CLI, I get an error message, right? Because I don't have permissions to launch an instance with profile of my CLI. But what we can do is we can go back to the attach user policy. So let me clear everything first. So if I go back to the command where I attach the Amazon S3 full access, I can change the S3 to EC2 full access, and the username myCLI gets this access. So enter. Alright, now we can try launching the EC2 instance with the profile of myCLI. And when I say enter, I'm able to launch instances. So, that's how you work some basic stuff with the Amazon CLI and IAM. Now, what if I wanted to delete this user, right? What if I don't need this user anymore? AWS IAM delete user -- user name and myCLI. So let's try this. Let's see what happens. The error says delete conflict, cannot delete entity, must detach all policies first. Right, so I have two policies attached to the user, so I cannot delete the user without detaching. So what I will do is I'll start detaching the policy. So instead of IAM attach user policy that I did earlier, I will say IAM detach user policy, username that, policy here and that. So let me try this. And that worked. And if you remember, we have one more policy with S3 full access. So I detach that. Okay. All right, now let's try deleting the user. Let's see what happens. Oops. Must delete access keys first. Right, so we also have to delete the access keys. We generated access keys for the user, we have to delete them. So to do that, I will say AWS IAM delete access keys key -- user -name myCLI, and I do need to include the access key ID. And what I'm gonna do is say AWS get configure get AWS _access _key _ID. So I can use a get command to get my ID. And this is the ID, and I'm going to say AWS IAM delete access key -- user -name, and the user is myCLI -- access tab key ID, and the ID is going to be the one we just found. So I want to make sure that so what I did, I was just about to do a big mistake. So when I got the ID, when I said AWS configure get access key ID, I forgot to mention the profile. So profile of myCLI, and let's see what the difference is. So as you can see, this is my default access key ID, and I don't want to delete that. So what I want to do is delete this, right? So AWS IAM delete access key dash dash user dash name my CLI access key ID, and the ID is going to be this, which I just copied and made sure that this is my key of my CLI user. Enter. Okay, now we're ready to delete the user, and to do that I'll say AWS IAM delete user dash dash user dash name my CLI. Enter, and there we go. We don't have that user anymore. So when I try to list the buckets, I just want to confirm that I don't have that user anymore. So when I say AWS S3 ls and dash dash profile of my CLI, the access key you provided does not exist in our records. So there we go. We don't have that user anymore. You can confirm with AWS IAM list dash users, and there's no way to, there's no my CLI in here. Although there is my CLI user, which I created on the 60. I don't know when I think I created that while ago, not today though. The one we just deleted was my CLI only, right? And I can't find that anywhere. So that's that. And so this is how you work with the IAM and CLI. And I'll see you in the next lab where we create a role for EC2 to launch our EC2.